You have revealed them to little ones. What parent's heart does not melt with the expressions of simple yet unconditional love of a little child? What parent has not felt the awesome responsibility of walking hand in hand with their little one, sensing their complete, total trust? Or what parents have not seen in the eyes of their children the absolute wide-eyed belief of everything mom or dad tells them, and the instant and total dismissal of anything to the contrary? Little children are simply the virtues of faith, hope, and love in their most pure forms. Children's imaginations have not yet fallen into decay through lack of use, and they are ever so curious. They want to know why. They want to learn. Children are open books. They reveal whatever is in their heart. They are honest, sometimes uncomfortably so. If you don't want an unsugar-coated honest answer, don't ask a child. They will bring up the elephant in the room that the adults don't want to talk about. They are simple and uncomplicated and totally without guile. Jesus tells us his Father reveals himself to such as these, not only to children, but to those who possess these same childlike virtues. He likens his apostles, the simple fisherman, the tax collector, and the others, to these little ones who would come to accept him as who he was. None of them were particularly learned men, and as such, perhaps did not have all the philosophical and legal baggage that kept the scribes, Pharisees, and Sadducees from being able to accept Jesus for who he was. These scholars of the law were the experts, having dedicated their lives to the study of all the complicated intricacies of Mosaic law. Most of the people found these laws burdensome and hard to understand, which of course gave those who did understand them a very special, important, and exalted place in society, and they liked it that way. They liked things complicated. It gave them power, and in all fairness, they also believed that's the way things should be. In any event, if these scholars of the law were going to be taken to school by anyone, it was sure not going to be some itinerant carpenter who did not even keep the Sabbath. Ultimately, it was their knowledge, their wisdom, their self-satisfaction, and perhaps their love of the status quo, their refusal to become childlike, that prevented the Father's truth from being revealed to them. You have hidden these things from the wise and learned. And the Father's truth is not that complicated. Jesus tells us it is simple. My yoke is easy and my burden light. He takes everything of importance in Mosaic law and reduces it to a two-part commandment that can be summed up in a single word that every child understands: love. We do not need to be burdened with understanding the fine points of Mosaic law, but we are to let love govern our lives. But children, of course, grow up, and some of us, maybe even most of us, get so involved in the cares of the world that we lose most or sometimes all of our childlike trust and faith, and even love. We trade these childlike gifts for the wisdom and learning of the world with all its cynicism. We become adults, sophisticated adults, who can no longer imagine with childlike wonder, whose lives are reduced to accumulating possessions, popularity, power, the life of the flesh St. Paul speaks of. And when these rewards of our very unchildlike culture are accumulated, we redirect our lives to holding on to these things and increasing them, and it is wearying. But Jesus promises, "Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, and you will find rest for yourselves." But how can anyone who has subscribed to the wisdom of the world possibly learn from Jesus? In last week's gospel, he said, "Whoever eats my flesh and drinks my blood has eternal life." How in the world can any intelligent, educated adult take that seriously? How childish. Well, Jesus is telling us that we must return to these days of childhood when we imagined, we loved, and trusted and could believe. Only if we can regain some of that pure and innocent faith, hope, and love that we had as children, only then can we accept his invitation. "Come to me, all you who labor and are burdened, and I will give you rest." As we celebrate the 4th of July this weekend, it might be worthwhile to revisit that great document that announced our nation's birth, with its references to nature's God or men being created equal and endowed with rights by their Creator. We are so certainly no longer an audacious youthful nation, struggling against all odds to survive. We now stretch from sea to shining sea. We have sent men to the moon, and we are the last of the superpowers. Nothing is beyond us. We are grown up. And often it seems like we as a nation have outgrown these childlike sentiments expressed by the founding fathers. Perhaps we have become too great and powerful to appeal to the supreme judge of the world. Perhaps we no longer need a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence. So perhaps this weekend, as we celebrate the anniversary of our nation's birth, we might take a little time to ponder, just how is that working? Donna and I miss you and look forward to the day when we can once more join you in worship at the cathedral. I want to thank Father Paul for inviting me to share this reflection, and also Keith Stanfield, without whose technical assistance this would not have been possible.